One of the things that will be talked about, we'll continue to reference the grad students, and we'll do that throughout. Each of us in the individual programs have a very dynamic set of grad students. We're very fortunate here to be able to have a program that we hope that we're generating the students to support the industry. That's our goal and that's our focus. Any student that gets interviewed or admitted into the program, they go through that process to know what is their goals. And we really have an emphasis on those that want to be involved in this industry, that we're so passionate about ourselves. And we'll, like Bob, and we'll be using the term we a lot, but that we normally goes to those students sitting out here. And any of us that have been in that spot, including us that are talking, understand how that goes. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on some sow research and then transition us into some of the nursery phases. One of the things I wanted to talk about on the last topic on the sow research, we did some work this last year working with Jim and the QTI group, working with the Bacillus product, starting it earlier. So there's a lot, obviously the feed additive side is certainly a very heavy research, and it has been for many years, but we all understand the emphasis of that going forward. And so trying to look at a little bit different strategic approach to it, starting it back in the sows after, in this case, we started feeding 2 different diets, the control diet or one that contained the Bacillus product at day 30 or after pregnancy check, carrying those sows up till lactation, keeping the sows on those same diets. So we switched to the lactation diet but kept the Bacillus or the control through lactation. And then the next one I'm going to get to is we carried those pigs in a factorial into the nursery as well. So really from day 30 of pregnancy to the end of nursery, we'll summarize the next several slides that I'm going to talk about. So the first data I'm going to talk about is the sow data, where we started feeding those sows at day 30, either the control diet or the diet that contained the Bacillus product. And to really get right into the data, when we look on some of the reproductive performance, in the purple bar is the control, in the orange bar is the diet that the sows would have had, the probiotic, from again, day 30 of gestation through the end of lactation. Okay? We can see again there was 29 sows, so it was a limited number study, and so we recognize that that limits some of the times we're going to be able to determine some statistical differences. And again, we weren't able to show that on a statistical basis. Looking at numbers across, total born was just over a pig more with the probiotic. Born live, slight numerical change. And again, nothing statistical, but numbers that don't send that we can look at and how we use maybe on a larger scale in terms of some next steps. From a litter size standpoint as well, again, the purple is the control at 13.3, and this is on day 2 of lactation, so after cross-fostering and litter equalization. Again, nothing in terms, we had a tendency at 0.06 for an increase in number of pigs on the probiotic treatment. Again, that started in gestation and went through lactation for a higher, about a half a pig more at that point. Unfortunately, it didn't carry through to the total number weaned. In this particular case, again, that was on day 2. When we look at weaning at day 21, that number equaled out. But again, we saw those changes over the course of that time. As we look at average daily feed intake, this was one of the responses that I do find that we thought that was very interesting out of this data set, that in fact when we fed the lactation diet, or the sows again had been on that gestation and lactation, there was a tendency for a higher feed intake during that lactation period as well. And so again, some interesting tidbits I think to come out of this smaller study, but again, some things maybe we need to look at and follow up on a larger scale. I know they have some additional commercial research they work with to look at these effects as well. One of the things that we did then was carry the pigs, and we did, again, Mariana and team, collected a lot of fecal samples. I didn't present all the sow fecal samples, but we collected fecal samples at weaning, basically to look at the digestive biome changes, the fecal bacillus at weaning, and very typical to research when we feed various probiotic or you feed different types of different feed additives, you can change the fecal dynamics. You know, we are what we eat, all right? And so pigs are the same way. Humans, you go through any sort of livestock species, and in fact you change it. And that's the goal, right? If we feed a substance that has the ability to change at the gut level, it's going to show up in the feces diversity, and that's what happened at these piglets at weaning as well. And this is on a total bacillus standpoint, so shows those pigs And what's interesting here at weaning, again, there was no creep feed fed. So they're picking that up either in the sow feces. There's very limited amount of feed that the pigs are going to get access to in our sow feeders. So really they're picking that up in the environmental aspects of the crate, changing the piglet diversity of Bacillus as well. Okay? So now we'll get into the nursery portion. So we took the two sets of pigs, those that were fed the probiotic, those that weren't, and then factorialized them in the nursery, either then taking the control pigs that we weaned, half of those stayed on these were all common nursery diets, either had the probiotic as well as a yeast cell wall product, it was a combination, or stayed on a control diet without. And then the pigs that we weaned that were on from the probiotic sow treatment, some of those went on the control without, and half of them stayed on that combination product to the end of the nursery. During the nursery period, this is average daily gain, and so this is the 4 nursery treatments, the control. So first we want to look at the sow, though. The sow was the control or probiotic. Again, each of those pigs split in half. For the average daily gain over the 42-day nursery period, we were not able to influence growth performance on an average daily gain basis or on feed efficiency during that period of growth. So again, some information that we can use and to look at how we apply and look at these types of additives when we apply back on the sow and how they fit into our production systems. Okay? I want to transition now to some work that Hayden Williams has been involved with, and Andy with SIVA has approached us to do a number of research trials this past year looking at iron use. You talk about an area that is obviously routine. Every baby pig gets an iron shot. This isn't something new, decades and decades old that we know this is a routine practice. But the amount of research available, published research available in this area is almost quite embarrassing. There is very little data sets that quantify the ideal level. You know, generally we're giving 200 milligrams, but there's a wide variety in our industry what's given. Some give a single shot, some will give a booster shot later. Different age of the pig, when are we going to give that shot? Some do it. Processing SOPs are very different by production system. Some wait a couple days. Some are doing whole rooms at a time. So some pigs could be 4 days old. Some could be almost wet yet, getting iron shots. And it's all over the board. And we just kind of generally accept that's what we got to do when we process. But very little information has been available of how does that truly affect the growth of pigs throughout their lives. And we have some information on the next couple that's where we want to get to. So in this first study, what we wanted to do is look at a level, and this is the gleptofort product of SIVA, looking at the level of iron injection at day 3. So after cross-fostering, this is a day 3 injection. And so within each litter, okay, 2 pigs, so this isn't this sow's litter gets it on a certain day and whatnot. We went within litter. And so again, all these 6 treatments took 12 pigs per litter. So we took a barrow and a gilt, each receiving these different amounts, either 0, 50, 100, 150, or 200. And then we also had the 200, and we gave another 100 milligrams at day 11. Okay? So we put that double treatment on. So this is within litter, so very structured in terms of how this was set up. And what you'll find on a body weight basis at weaning, and again, this is about a 20, 21-day weaning, this would show that the 100, again, we have a quadratic effect for the 100 to basically maximize with no further benefit, and the booster shot for our weaning weight did not change at weaning. So we get a lot of feedback in terms of, yeah, we looked at weaning weight, didn't find responses, and that was true in this case. The 100 looked like it was pretty good, but what the key here too is look what the zeros did. They're already about 2 to 3 pounds lighter than pigs that received any, and the 50s kind of hold it in there. But as we look at carrying these pigs through the nursery, all these pigs were fed the same nursery diet. There was 110 ppm of iron in the nursery diets throughout. But look at the end of nursery at about 50 pounds of weight. The pigs that received no iron, about 43 pounds. The 50, 46 and a half. Now the 100 that maximized or were as heavy as the higher treatments at weaning are now lagging about 2.5 pounds versus that to the 150, and we max at the 200. Okay? So again, where are you taking your measurements to understand what type of iron level dosage do you want to give? And I think carrying through this far, and again, the booster shot did not provide any further benefit in this particular case, where they got 300 total milligrams versus the 200. Okay? From a feed efficiency basis, just as importantly, at the end of that, during the nursery stage, you'll see we had a quadratic effect, basically maximizing down at 150. We're getting this 100 to 200 range, but 150 was ideal. Again, no further benefit if we gave the higher, the second booster shot to those pigs in this particular study. One of the things that comes back in terms of where most producers are not, and as the veterinary community gets involved in cases, we're not necessarily weighing the pigs on a practical basis, but what they are doing is taking some blood samples, sending them in. Are these pigs anemic or not? Okay? Generally, the cutoff line used is around, for hemoglobin is around 10 grams per deciliter, and if under that, generally could be considered anemic, and if over that, probably sitting okay. Again, we can argue about that 10 number, but that's a general number that's used. And if we look at day 3, before the pigs received any iron shot, they're all together here, and we'd be considering that slightly anemic, as we'd expect. A newborn pig, 3 days old, no iron shot, they're going to be anemic. As we have the 0, you'll see that that line really dips down here until weaning. Okay? Remember, these pigs at day 21 are weaned, then go on nursery diets that contain adequate levels of iron. You'll see those also, the 50 lags, and then the 100 and above basically kind of hold together, and this is all in kind of a quadratic fashion. But you'll see once the pigs go back on feed at day 21, even pigs that receive no iron, they got back after that day 63 of age. They had blood levels that were similar to those that received iron early on. But remember, they're still about 5 pounds lighter. Their blood levels are fine finally at this point, but they're still lighter, and it takes that amount of time for them to build their blood levels back up. And so again, I think some interesting information in terms of when we're in this range of 100 and above, we're probably not going to see a lot of differences in those blood levels. If we have a bunch of run back, if we're using a lower level and then we're not getting it all in, we're certainly probably going to show some anemic pigs on a blood basis as well. Okay? The next study dealt with, so we did the dosage study, but one of the big questions out there that many producers have questions on, or basically based on protocols, is when to give the iron shot. And that's what this next study deals with. Again, we did that at our K-State facility. We went in with individual litters, and within an individual litter, a barrow and a gilt were designated to be on the different treatments, either not getting an iron shot at day 2, day 4, day 6, day 8, or day 10 of age. Okay? So again, this is within an individual litter. It's not just taking whole litters and randomizing in that way. So we feel we have a very good uniform allotment process. Looking at age of iron injection, you'll see that there was a tendency for a quadratic effect, and this is on weaning weight. They all received 200 milligrams at those specific ages. As we look at from day 4 and day 6, where our maximum is, it's about 1.7 pounds heavier than those pigs not receiving an iron shot. And interestingly, as we look at even day 2, we've got about a half a pound heavier pig at that point. If now we go to the end of nursery, again, we have the ability to carry these pigs for an extended period of time, and we look at from day 21 to day 80 in the nursery, or when those pigs get to about 80 pounds at the end. Again, and we look at the days of injection from 0 to 10, we'll see again we have a significant quadratic effect where the pigs that were given the injection at day 4 and later were significantly heavier than those pigs certainly at day 0 and those that received an injection at day 2. It's very routine that a large number of pigs in our industry will be receiving iron shots day 1, day 2, day 3, more bunched up towards the beginning. When we're doing either room cleanouts or we're doing a whole room at a time, we'll probably have a wide range of those pig ages. But something to be thinking about in terms of recognizing that, honestly surprised us to some degree, and again, there's very little literature out there to support the different ages and effects. That difference even going from day 2 to day 4 was pretty substantial at the end of that period. Okay? So as we look at blood levels, again, a lot of blood was drawn on these pigs throughout the different stages. really tells the same story. Again, the same nutrition pattern was done whether that's a sow or when they're fed in the nursery period. Pigs that did not receive iron shot, again, if we use our 10 as our basis, again, certainly anemic. And then we just bled these pigs out to day 35. We did not bleed them when they weighed 80 pounds at the end. But again, if we would have, this line, similar to what we just looked at in the first study, is coming back. But again, all those pigs, even at day 2, were lagging. Okay, or sorry, day 10 was a little bit lower. The rest of these all really come together. So from a blood basis, it really tells us that the most important thing is just getting the shot into them. And we're not going to have a big change over time. It's those pigs that we miss or may, again, have a very low level. We're going to show those to be anemic until they're at some point in the nursery when they've consumed enough iron in the feed that their blood levels come back up, but they're never caught up in weight at the end of the nursery period.